Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
Hey, welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where generational perspectives mix with humor and warmth. We are getting ready to dive into a bunch of topics today, like current events, some quirky questions, and everyday life. I'm here with my mom. Hello, Mecca.
Hello.
And my other millennial. Hello, Cole.
Howdy.
And I'm excited to chat with y'all today.
We're going to have some fun. We're going to pick on millennials, I think, a little bit today. We're going to kind of go from a perspective of what would your advice to your younger self be, and some funny things that we've heard along the way. So this all kind of started from, I got an article. It was written by Victoria Osakati. I think I did that right. And it's a beautiful spelling, you guys. It was on Board Panda. It was a Reddit thread, and it was harsh realities 20-somethings don't realize yet, according to people in their 40s.
Oh.
And so, I mean, it was really, parts of it were really funny. So here's a little snippet. Wear earplugs anywhere loud, because tinnitus is a curse, and you
Amen.
can still enjoy stuff with them in. Sunblock every time you're outside.
Yes.
Moisturize with simple cream like cocoa butter. Eat well, lots of fiber, drink water. This one cracks me up. Look at your poop and be aware of what's normal and what could possibly be warning signs of serious illness. Check your boobs and balls regularly for lumps. Brush your teeth with fluoride toothpaste before you go to bed. Circular motions, don't scrub them like a dirty saucepan. Don't eat or drink anything with artificial sweeteners, as they are evil. Read. If you have the opportunity to do something that'll make you happy, that won't hurt anyone, then just bloody do it. Don't stand in your own way. Regret is a curse. I love you. You're awesome. Be the best that you can be. So we're going to talk about that.
That's awesome.
There were some fun ones in there. It's a fun article to go and read. So if you were writing back to your teen or 20-something-year-old, what would the first line say?
I know you don't want to, but dude, just listen.
That's a great one.
That's a great one.
I was going to say, chill the bleep out.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Yeah. Yeah. And mine went a little bit more. I would just start, my first line would really be something along the lines of, dear or precious person, let it go.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of could do that. So advice to your younger self?
Man, we were talking about this earlier this week, and I feel like, number one, there are some that have stuck in my brain for ages. Different things that various people have said that were meaningful to me, like the people were meaningful to me, and so therefore the words were. And then there have been a couple that I feel like I have heard, no matter where they came from, that I have heard that I didn't start understanding or appreciating until much later in life. Like Dad says something often, you're expecting a rational response from an irrational person. And I feel like I use that way too often, just because it helps me rationalize in my brain, hey, you're never going to get that. Your expectations are off.
Yeah, I think that's true. So
yeah, I was thinking about it last night, kind of prepping for today, and there are three that really stick with me, and two of them are really, really simple, and I wish that I had followed this advice, started following this advice much earlier. Cook more, drink less, and listen to people better. Because I spent a lot of years where I could hear people just fine, but I never listened to them.
That's interesting. Mine tend to be more get out of your own head, or it doesn't matter
Get
what
out
it
of your
looks
own
like.
way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it looks like to somebody else. You know, and this one, this is just a moment in time. Enjoy it, have fun, make good friends. And I will say this one, it's okay for girls to be smart.
Amen.
So I think those are kind of where I was kind of going.
No, I think that those are all good. I mean, I think a couple of things that I wish I was better at, especially that I listen to more, especially growing up, is you have time. Slow down and enjoy where you are right now. I
Yeah.
mean, do I want to go back to high school? No, I don't. But do I appreciate all of the freedom and lack of responsibility from that time in my life? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we have become a culture of rushing through to get to the next thing and to be on to the next thing and to do better. And I'm absolutely guilty of always wanting to improve and always wanting to learn. And while those aren't necessarily bad things, rushing through whatever else it is,
Yeah.
the lessons that you're learning along the way is. And so just taking some time to slow down and appreciate where you are and know that you may never have this back.
I think one of the things that I really see with you guys, I don't know a soul in my age that we were not ready to have our own cars and get our driver's license at 16. I mean, we were there that morning, the morning that we turned 16 to get our driver's license. And there's a generation here who has really held off on that. And they're totally okay with it. And I think it goes to what we were in such a hurry to, I know me, I was in a rush to get a job because that meant I could be independent.
Yeah.
And if I look back on that now, holy cow, I should have lived off of my parents for a lot longer than
As
I
long
did.
as you could.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if the kids these days that are holding off on getting their driver's license, I wonder if part of the reason for that is how terrible we are as a society at driving in general and how much anger and angst exists within, because I get really mad at people when I'm driving because everyone drives like a maniac, like they're the only car on the road and doesn't pay any attention. I
Yeah.
feel like if I was growing up and experiencing that with everyone that I rode with, I probably wouldn't want to drive either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
part of it. And I mean, I hate that there's a component of fear maybe that's in there, but the
yes.
numbers are greater. And I will never forget a friend of mine a couple of years ago said that she believed the reason that drivers are so bad now is because we went through that parent taught phase where you didn't have to go to driving school. That wasn't something that you got. I mean, that was a course in high school for me. And so you had those parents that were responsible for teaching their kid and maybe they didn't do a great job of doing it, and now we have the drivers to show that. So
That makes a lot of sense. I
it makes
mean,
some
I
sense.
feel like there are a whole slew of
Factors.
factors that are absolutely different today than they were 20 years ago, 50 years ago. I just feel like all of those factors have changed. Like cars are faster today than they have ever been in history. Just regular standard everyday cars. Cars are less well built. And you can sit here and say, "Oh, but the safety ratings and what is it? JD Power and Associates awarded it the best safety." Those are all paid for. That's not real. That's not anything normal. It's marketing. Don't listen. I've got a friend who always talks about Teslas are held together by glue because they are not metal in most places, in most pieces. Like, are there metal components? Yes, absolutely. But the car itself is not the big steel bumper, steel frame, rolling boat that your mom drove, Mom. And
Hey.
what? You talk about her driving an old Cadillac.
I know, but she that and that van. But I didn't think you were going to tag her in. I thought you were going to talk about me driving an old boat, and I was going to get mad at you.
I would never.
Because me and the BRT were tight.
Yeah, until I crushed her. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But even that, like the whole front end of that car, when I got into a wreck where I rear-ended somebody else, going less than 15 miles an hour, just for the record, the police and fire department both confirmed this. I was not acting a fool, but the entire front end of that vehicle crumpled, right? And that's what it's supposed to do so that it can take the impact and all of this. That still, while it is beneficial, it didn't have to be that way. It didn't used to be that way. And so I think that, I mean, we talk about the mom arm seatbelt. I mean, they didn't have all of these safety features and things like that, but we were paying more attention. I mean, how many times are you in the car with somebody where that mom arm seatbelt would be appreciated even, but we're not paying enough attention to even know that it's necessary. There are way more cars on the road. Roads are way more plentiful just because there's so much more opportunity for places to go. And so there's just so many factors that have made that exponentially more difficult. And I think that you're right, Mom. As much as I hate that there's an element of fear in it, there absolutely is.
I would also say cars were simpler. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I drove a Mustang. When you opened the hood on that Mustang, you still saw ground. You know, you don't do that in a car today. That under it's full, and it's not like, I mean, I knew where the dipstick was. I could change my own tire. That's much more complex today than it was.
Oh, yeah. It's all computers and technology and sensors and all of these things, which again, there's some benefit to that. But at the same time, like, you should be paying attention to your car and looking at the tire to see if the tire is low before the car tells you that the tire is low. And I think that we've just become so much more lax in our own personal standards. Oh, the car will just do it for me. Oh, the automotive manufacturers are just going to do it. And don't get me wrong, I work for an automotive manufacturer. Like, I am not sitting here hating on them. They have a very specific task and service that they're providing. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we should be doing better before we get behind the wheel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Cole, you told us a really good piece of advice yesterday that you were thinking of that I think is so relevant from your little friend, Joe Rogan.
Don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments.
Don't read the comments. Yeah, it's something that he says all of the time. And Mom, I think you added in here that no one's mind has ever been changed in the comment section. And I just thought that was so valid. I think
it wasn't your wise mother. It was your wise sister who put that comment in there.
And it wasn't really me. It wasn't really me. It was after the election. It was a chef in Houston that I follow on Threads. And he was like, look, nobody's mind has ever been changed in the comments. Stop wasting your time. Yeah. He's had some wise words.
And I mean, and you just get so mad sometimes at some of them. They're, the meanness of them or the obtuseness of them that you just think, don't read the comments. I think that's really good.
Yeah. So, I just think in general, everybody is fighting their own battles. We all have them. Yours may be different than mine, better, worse, easier, harder, doesn't even matter. We all are fighting our own battles. And we don't need to make life any harder than it already is. And so for me to do that to somebody else and for them to do that to me, it's just so unnecessary. Be nice. Be kind.
I think that's such a valid point. We really don't know what anyone else is going through. And so to assume so is, well, forgive me, but kind of a millennial thing to do. But I mean, it's really not a very smart or fair thing to do either, because you just don't know.
Yeah, we talked here just the other day when we had Trey on the podcast. We all grew up in many ways, even Cole and I more specifically, under the same roof, with the same parents, with the same rules, and how differently our perspectives are and the challenges and struggles that we went through. And so if Cole and I under the same roof grew up differently and had totally different takeaways from that experience, what does somebody else who had a different life than me? What does theirs look like? And what perspective do they have that I could learn something from, that they bring to the table that's so much more unique than mine?
Okay, what's a mistake you made in your 20s or 30s that taught you a lesson you still live by?
Listen to a woman when they tell you they don't think your relationship is going to work out, because it's not.
I think that's super valid.
Yeah, gosh.
Not where I thought you would go.
Yeah, don't keep trying, because you're just wasting your time. Both of your time.
Good advice.
I think it would be to learn from your mistakes. You know, in my first job out of college, I worked at a little tiny advertising agency, and we talked about this the other day. When you're young and dumb, you have no idea what is actually going on in the world and how insignificant you are and how much you don't actually know. I mean, I could do no wrong. There was nothing that I couldn't figure out, I couldn't do. Like, I was the most intelligent human out there, for sure.
Invincible on top of it.
Oh, yeah, completely. And I remember we had actually minted coins, physical metal coins. And it had an acronym. It was for a university, and it had an acronym on it. And I transposed 2 of the letters. It was a 5-letter acronym, and I transposed 2 of the letters because I just typed it in. And no one caught it. I mean, dozens of people saw all of the artwork, saw the proof, signed off on them. Everybody did all of this. But I did it. And they were wrong. And we didn't know that they were wrong until the dean of the university was handing them out at a breakfast. And somebody came up to him and said, "Hey, I thought it was supposed to be," and he was completely mortified.
Because there's always an editor in the crowd.
So Dean Manis, I'm very sorry about that still. The client called and said, "Hey, what happened here?" And so we immediately went through exactly, did it come in wrong? How did it go wrong? When was it wrong? At what point in the process did it get screwed up? And it was wrong from the very beginning based on me typing it in instead of copying and pasting. And so we started putting in all of these kind of fail safes to protect ourselves. In this instance, this is what you need to do. You need to do it like this. You need to follow through on this piece of it. And instituting all of these different changes and processes, truly processes, to keep me and all of us and the dean and the client out of trouble. I mean, it was just so second nature to all of us that we never even thought about it. And letters are hard. And apparently I'm more dyslexic than I would care to admit. So learn from your mistakes. It sucked, and I was completely convinced I was going to lose my job. Patrick, thank you very much for being kind and not being horrible, because he certainly could have been. And I just feel like that to this day is something that I carry through to when you make a mistake, it's okay, but find out how to fix it and try really hard to never make that same mistake again.
You know, I think that last part's really valid too, because I think we do, especially when you're young like that, everything is catastrophic.
Yes.
So everything, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to, die. And it just doesn't end up that way at all. I really think this is wise advice, and I didn't take it necessarily, but I think it's super wise advice to find something that you love to do. Don't just work. Find something that means something to you and do that. And it doesn't necessarily have to make you a millionaire. You know, there's a lot to be said for just doing something that you love.
Yeah, and I think that there's part of that is that you need to be honest with yourself. If being a millionaire is what you want to do, cool. But you are never going to reach that goal by salting fries at McDonald's. You're just not. And so you have to be honest and realistic with yourself and your expectations. And it doesn't matter what the outcome of those things are, where you end up, as long as you're happy going there and ending up in that place, cool. But be honest with what your expectations are, and then make realistic choices to go and follow through so that you can live your own dreams.
Yeah, I think that's really valid. Super valid. Okay, Mr. Cole, financial advice that you
Buy
would.
Bitcoin. I mean, it's really that easy. If I was doing the math, if I had invested $300 the year that I graduated from high school, if I had taken $100 out of 3 paychecks, I would have $1 million right now.
Oh, wow.
In nothing but Bitcoin.
I'm going to say more practical than that, but I honestly believe that if you start saving, you set an amount, whether that's 10% or 15% or 20%, because the truth is, you learn to live whatever is in your checking account. So if you put that money aside first and you have that savings plan and you make it as automatic as you can do, that is, I think, wisdom.
I think I would add to that, because if you're going to be saving on the side, you need to figure out a way to put that money to work. If you're not spending it, if you're not utilizing that as cash flow, you have to give it some way to grow. Because sitting in a savings account is not going to do anything for you besides not let you spend it. Whereas you could go and do anything, even if you're, regardless of your risk tolerance, put that money to work and let it grow. That in and of itself, I mean, even if it's $10 a week when you start salting fries in high school,
Exactly.
would make a massive difference for you for the rest of your life.
It compounds really fast if you allow it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. Like, number one, go educate yourself on money, on financial literacy, on what everything does and what it all means. You don't have to be an expert in every single aspect of finance, but if you can make your money work for you and you can live within your means, and again, be honest with what those really are, not credit card debt, not loans, not off of your parents. If you can be honest with what your means are and live within them and then start taking care of yourself down the road, you have such a much better option, a much better chance of everything being okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
you
there's
mentioned
such a,
Go ahead.
I think there's such a misconception or misunderstanding of how to use debt, what debt is for, because the reason debt works is because you assume debt generally as not a way to acquire things that you can't afford, but a way to you have to utilize debt to make something grow faster than the interest. That is what debt is for, and the vast majority of people don't use it that way.
And I think that you're right 100%. I think that that's not taught because people don't know. And so that's why I say go and educate yourself, do some reading. I don't care if you find an Instagram account who is helpful, who's more knowledgeable, and you can start having some good positive takeaways. I mean, there are so many different ways that you can put your money to work for you.
Y'all have said two things that I want to hit on, and one of them is credit card debt, because I think we jump to that so easily. It's so readily available. It is handed to us in mass amounts. And if you could avoid that, because you don't, I mean, it feels kind of like free money until you start paying it back. And the interest rates are so ridiculous that, I mean, you spend $500 and then you spend two years paying off that $500 if you're doing the minimum payment, and you don't realize what an impact that has on you. So no credit cards would be one of them. And bless my mom. My mom worked for a bank. In fact, she worked for a loan officer, and I had no idea really what she was doing because I wasn't smart about money. When I was in college, they made me. Mom set it up for me to take out a loan. Now, I'm going to say two things. Number one, this would have been in 19, 79. And even as early as 19, women could not get a loan on their own signature. They had to have a male family member sign for them. So it's pretty amazing. And I had no clue, but mom got me a $500 loan and threatened my life if I touched it. This is not money for you to spend. This is you're going to take this loan out and you're going to pay it back. And I had no idea what the purpose of that for, but that started my credit history. As a very young person, established my credit history. I mean, Cal, you did a house when you were 21, and that made a difference
By
to you.
myself. I
Yes,
was going
she
to say,
did.
you guys put me on as a signer on one of your cards ages ago. And that, because I didn't have credit cards. I didn't have credit cards until the last 4 years. And so like after 2020. And so I didn't have any debt. I didn't do any of this, but because I didn't have any kind of debt, like Cole's talking about leveraging it to your favor, to your benefit, I also had a hard time because my credit score was as good as it can be when you don't have any debt. And so because you guys put me on that credit card and because it was paid in full every month, that helped my credit score so that I could buy a house at 21 by myself without needing a husband or some man to come and co-sign on this for me. And I'm just so thankful.
Yeah, lots of wisdom to be learned about money for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And so is kind of in that same vein, is there something that you worried about when you were young that turned out not to be very important? Did you worry about your friends? Who you were going to be?
I think as goofy as it sounds, I think we are taught to worry about being cool. And at the end of the day, as you go through life and as you get older, everybody's freaking weird.
It's true.
Yeah.
Every single person is freaking weird. And
That's
it's just
true.
a matter of being your own kind of weird. Don't be gross, but be your own kind of weird and find people with like weirdnesses like you and just be cool with that. That's enough.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the most popular person or any of that to be likable.
I have found that the easiest way to be cool and to make people like you is to just be genuine. Just genuinely be yourself. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to put on a charade or a mask and pretend to be something else. Just be you and people will love you for it.
For the record, I think that that's a millennial thing too. Just saying.
What's that? Which part is a millennial thing?
The valuing authenticity and being genuine who you are, being comfortable in your own skin and that being enough.
Yeah. I think when I was in high school, you always wanted to be, the popular kid and it's such a waste of time.
Oh yeah.
It's like you say, you're so much better being you than you are being somebody that you think you're supposed to be. So it's just better.
And it's so much less work.
Yeah.
Like that's like I have a weird policy about not lying because I don't care to remember all of that. I don't care to remember what I've said to who and to keep up the whole charade like Cole said. Just be who you are and you will find your own pockets and people who love you for exactly that.
Yeah. If people would put half the amount of effort into learning and understanding who you truly are and presenting that to the world as we do into trying to present who we think the world wants us to look like, not only would we be happier, we would in general be healthier mentally. Everyone would be so much nicer to each other.
Yeah.
The world would be a much better place if we would take half of that energy and put it into just learning who you are.
And do you think we would be more accepting of other people if we did that?
I was just going to say, I think that the judgment would be so much less, just to kind of across the board, because you're not worried with what it is that somebody's thinking about you because you're not thinking anything about them either.
It feels like it's kinder to yourself as well as to other people.
Yeah. And again, I go back to everybody is fighting their own battle. They are
Sure.
focused on fighting that battle. Nobody gives a shit what you're doing. But don't be gross.
I do want to ask you, you said you had a weird policy about lying.
I said people think that I'm weird for my policy about lying.
Oh.
Because I think that in general, it's not the norm. Like I cannot watch a TV show and sit there and not get mad at various characters and go, you would not be in this situation had you just told the truth. You would not be here if you had not just lied about that. This is all because you lied about that. And I get really animated, as you can tell, about that because it's just so much more work. Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
It's so much more work, but there are so many TV shows that we would not have if the people that were being the characters in that TV show weren't idiots.
Oh, for sure. But I think it's more than being idiots. I think that there's some cruelty to it. I think that there's a humongous mean factor. And I've sat here and kind of rolled it around in my brain. What TV shows would still be on if we were all honest?
That's where I was going.
Why do we find this so entertaining? Oh, because you don't know where it's going to go. And oh, because it's thrown a wrench into all of this. Stop throwing wrenches in. Just be good. Be nice.
Let's talk about the kids coming up today. What advice would you give and how well do you think they would take it?
Get off your phone.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Get off your phone.
And how well will they take it?
Not very.
I mean, that's up to them. They get to make that choice. In 10 years,
they're going to look up and be like, damn, I've spent the last 10 years staring at this damn phone.
Well, and you can go lots of places on your gaming console. You can go and drive lots of fast cars on your PlayStation. You can go and visit this museum or that on your computer. That is not the same as doing that, being there, experiencing those things. Get off your phone.
I was just thinking in 10 years, you said they're going to look up and I'm thinking, no, they're not going to be able to. Their heads are going to be, it's going to be just like
scoliosis of the neck.
Well, as things change and evolve, it's going to evolve so that our necks are automatically bent to that direction.
Yeah, it's a tool, not the tool.
Yes.
That's good. That's good.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So we grew up on land. We've all built fences or been around someone who is building fences. We saw a video the other day and there is a piece of equipment. It's a big round, like a pole almost, an empty pole with handles on it. And the point of this device is when you're trying to hammer
T-post.
Yes, a T-post into the ground, you can put this device, because it's made out of metal, it's very heavy, you can put it over the post and bang it down. And it will go into the ground.
Yeah, it's a self-guided hammer.
It's like a hammer with a sleeve on it. So the nail, quote unquote, doesn't have anywhere else to go except because it's inside of this sleeve. So it's getting whacked down because that's the only option.
Much as I would use my shoe to hammer something down, but this has a pole to keep it going and so that you can hold on it and not hammer your fingers at the same time. However, our young person was using it more like
a regular hammer.
Yeah. Banging it from the outside, not using the pole, the inside pole to guide it. They were using that. And I thought it was very interesting that what you guys said is
we're screwed.
Questions. No, well, that too. But ask questions about what you don't know.
Yeah.
You've thought that was really valid. And granted, this poor little guy is sitting there just banging the hell out of this T-post and not getting anywhere. Because it probably weighs what, Cole? 20 pounds?
Yeah, they're going to vary.
At least.
That's probably about right.
What's it called? A post driver?
Post driver.
Yeah. And he's got it up and trying to use the side of it to hammer with. So he's not accomplishing a whole lot in the process of all of this anyway. So,
well, the surface area A is round. So he's like falling off of any side of the T-post that he's hitting, and it's tiny. And so he doesn't have any surface area that is actually making solid contact with the T-post, which is the shape of a T on the top, right? And so there's not a ton to begin with. And so I think that old adage of work smarter, not harder really applies in everything in life, but really applies here. He was making his life. He didn't let gravity do the work for him. He didn't let the sleeve help keep it in place. I mean, he could literally set that whole thing down and walk away for a minute if he got tired. But now he has to carry it up. And you're just like, what are you doing, man? This is not smarter. This is way harder. And like, they're so good at paying attention and looking at their phones. You can learn anything on YouTube. Go find out how to use it. I don't know.
You just told them to get off their phone.
I did. But I don't know is a completely acceptable answer and response so long as it's followed with, let me go find out. And even if you can't find an answer, the fact that you went and looked counts. That's okay. But ask somebody. Ugh, kids these days.
What would you want them to ask you?
Whatever they need to ask me.
Yeah.
And if they're asking the wrong question, that's when I can say, okay, well, here's the answer to that question, but have you thought about it this way? And guide them to what is the right question to ask in this scenario.
I think for me, it would be like, I would be absolutely floored, but also just really honored if some young person said, hey, what's important? Where should I be spending my focus? Now, that said, I cannot be that determining factor for you. You need to focus on this and this and this and this. But I can give you some advice to go and find what is important to you and make sure that you're putting your time in the right directions so that you're not just sitting here prioritizing. Yes.
You have a friend who does that, who uses you in that capacity. And in some regards, we could say that's mentoring, but it's kind of unofficially mentoring. But you have a friend who comes to you quite often because she feels comfortable enough to you to say, I don't know how to do this. And I've seen her do it in her personal life. I've seen her do it in her professional life, that she comes to you easily to say, I need help. So is part of that creating a relationship, building that relationship?
I was going to say, I think so much of it is built on we've created a relationship of trust. And I think that she specifically doesn't have a lot of people and hasn't had a lot of people in her life previously who she could trust, who she could ask questions to, and who, when she does ask questions, they're met with a lot of judgment. And I think that fear alone of judgment, of being perceived to be ignorant, will stop a lot of people from asking questions. And I think that I have worked really hard to provide an environment of, hey, we've all been there. We've had to ask these questions too. We've had to figure this out too. Like, I just want to help. I just want to help you. And so we have developed that whole relationship with a really, really hefty foundation of trust so that she can come in. And that's not to say that I don't go to her with questions too, because I absolutely do. But we can come to each other without that judgment and saying, oh, you're an idiot for thinking that. It's not that. It's, oh, hey, let me help. This is what I know. I may not know it all, but this is what I have to offer you. Let's go find out. Let's go figure it out. And I think that also comes with a level of accountability. The accountability is hard. It's hard to accept, and it's hard to kind of take. Nobody wants to. It's not fun or comfortable or easy. But I think that it makes you a better person. And so it's, hey, you said you were going to do this. Were you able to get that done? Hey, it's really important. You need to go schedule your annual OB appointment because you're an adult. You're a woman, and this is important.
I think in the long run, being accountable is easier.
Oh, for sure. I think it's a muscle. You know, the more you exercise it and the more you use it, the easier it becomes, the more weight you can lift, if you will. And if you don't ever use it, it hurts. And you go and use it one time, or somebody forces you to use it one time, and it's really painful. Use it a lot.
So do you two have people, myself excluded, do you two have people that you use in the same way that she uses you, that you go to just to say, hey, I need help?
Not as many as I used to. That group has gotten a lot smaller, and I know everything, so who do I need to ask? Um,
I
but
asked for that one.
yeah, there are definitely some people that I will bounce ideas off, and it's situational. I have a pretty small core at work where if I don't know, I know that I can broadcast it out there and everyone will see it and I can get a ton of responses. But for very specific instances, I have very specific individuals that I know that that's where they have a much stronger understanding, knowledge on a particular subject than I do. And so I'm going to go specifically to that individual. In life, that circle is very small.
I just think my point was, I think we have people that we should be helping and people that should be helping us. And we need to build that, Callie, your word would be community, to do
Yeah.
that, to make that happen.
Well, because I think that there are so many different perspectives that when woven all together makes the fabric of that community so much stronger. So you have a know-how how to do this and you have a know-how how to do that. And I don't have to know everything, but I know people that can help give me some foundational work on that. And so I don't know how to build a fence. I just don't. We talked about fences earlier. I don't know how to build a fence, which is really saying something because I've grown up. I'm 36 years old and my dad has built and been around fences for his entire career, my entire life. And I appreciate a beautiful fence because we would drive around. Oh, that one was built by so-and-so and Eddie did that one and I did that one and I sold the wood for that one and all of these things. But if I needed to know how to build a fence, heck, I did. I was trying to put in a gate between me and the neighbors so that we could easily get to each other's houses. And so I called dad and was like, hey, this is the picture of what I'm doing. How do I go about doing this? Where do I need to cut? How do I put this back together? So I didn't need to know how to build a fence, but I knew where to go for that help and assistance. And because it was all judgment free, he's like, here's a great idea. You could try this. I would look into this. This might be an option. This could work too. Go talk to these people at this place. They can get you set up. No problem.
Yeah,
And
shout
so,
out to Pops for sure.
Yeah,
Definitely my
heck
go-to
yeah.
for anything like structural or mechanical. Like, hey, I have a question on this. And he doesn't always know. And he's straight up with you and he'll tell you, I'm not sure, but this is where you could go look.
Right. And I think that opens up kind of the line of creativity so that you can say, hey, he told me this, she told me this. That's not exactly what I wanted and exactly how I do it. But I think I could take this part of it and use that as a jumping off point to take myself to the next step, to the next level, to closer to where I'm trying to get. You said a minute ago, like, do you have these people, me excluded? I can't exclude you. I mean, Mom, we've talked about it today. That is my community. You are part of my community. You're a huge part of my community. I mean, I have had conversations with both of you about the same topics and about the same things that you both have come to me with very, very different advice that is incredibly helpful to me. And so I get to then make those choices and make those calls, and they're more educated because I have your differing perspectives. And so I just think that building that community, we are not all the same. We do not all know all of the same things. I think life would be incredibly boring if we were all identical. But having the nuance of community and allowing our differences to make us stronger and to make us better, it doesn't get better than that.
I'll take that. So I'm going to plug my little friend Brad Paisley in here because he wrote a song called Letter to Me, and he's talking about writing to his 17-year-old self. And one of the first lines, which I'd really forgotten, is, I can prove to you that it's me because there's something under the mattress that nobody else knows about that is there. And so how would you prove to your 17-year-old self that it was you?
I plead the fifth.
I was going to say, That sounds like you're asking us to, like, I mean, would you like my social security number out on the internet as well?
No.
Like, then everybody's going to know.
No, but trust me, most 17-year-olds don't know their social security number. Which
Also true.
leads us into our weird thoughts for today. So we've had so much fun with this. Is it Chris? Chip Layton has an Instagram about, it's called The Layton Show. Y'all should look it up because he doesn't say a word in it, but it's the things that our children say to us that just make shake our heads.
So number one, he's a comedian. So he has that kind of basis already established. And number two, more specifically, not just things that our children said, these are texts from my teenagers. And it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different teenagers from a bunch of different families, not just his.
Thank goodness.
Not trying to throw his under the bus here.
Yeah.
That we all have these moments, and I have certainly, I'm sure that I've asked questions along these lines.
Yeah, probably.
So your favorite one from his Instagram?
Who were the pallbearers at your wedding?
So do I put the bear spray on before I go hiking or only if I see a bear?
That one's really good too.
I
have two because they're cooking related, I think. The one is my water okay if the ice cubes float up? Which you have to say, that's pretty smart. I mean, some kid has been told that the eggs are bad. But the other one is...
I did not make that connection until you said it about the eggs. I mean, at all.
Oh, yeah.
And I am an ice water fiend, but I did not make that connection.
Oh, that's funny. And the other one is, if it calls for the whole egg, do I put the shell in too?
I mean, I again think that there are plenty of opportunities. We were talking the other day. I'm 36 years old. My text messages in my current phone go back to 2015, April specifically. If there was a way that I could search for idiotic texts that I've sent and it would bring them up, there would be a plethora. An absolute smorgasbord of stupid things that I have said and asked and wondered. Heck, you guys, this whole segment of weird thoughts came from me thinking about weird, stupid stuff going, I don't know.
That's true.
I should ask about that.
That's true. Let's see. How about this one? Which country speaks cursive?
That's where I was going next. That one's great.
What's a vegetative state? California? I love that.
I'm going to a funeral. Will I have to pay to get in?
Where do I put the snow that I shovel? I think that's a completely valid question. I can only hear myself asking that. The only reason I have never asked that is because I don't live somewhere where it snows. But what do you do with it?
You get it out of the way. You're shoveling to clear a path.
This makes me think of that scene. I am not a big fan of this show. I haven't watched a ton of episodes, but it makes me think of that scene in Schitt's Creek where the mom is saying to the son, she's like, now the next step is you fold in the cheese. And he's like, what does fold in the cheese mean? And she also doesn't know. And she's like, you just fold it in. And they go back and forth and back and forth. What does that mean? Don't say fold it in again. Like, what does that mean? And they're both so frustrated because they don't know what fold in the cheese means. We've all been there. We're all dumb in plenty of occasions. Did I already get my rabies shot?
I don't know. Did you see Fields of Pasta in Italy is up there too?
Yeah.
How about euthanize? That's when they cut your balls off, right?
So he has a book. Chip Layton has a book of like a whole conglomeration of all of these. And the book, I believe is called What Time is Noon?
But in the words of Brad Paisley, go hug Aunt Rita because she really needs it. So I think that's really valid too. We need to appreciate the people in our life, laugh at ourselves as well as the other ones, and realize that it's just a journey.
I've got one final piece of advice that just came to mind, and it's one that I still struggle with to this day. I'm really, really bad about this, but learn from other people's mistakes. You
Oh.
don't have to make every mistake yourself.
That's super valid. Super valid.
Amen.
Cal, you want to tell our good news story?
I would love to. So, we talked a little bit last week about the wildfires in California and how devastating they have been, and some of the GoFundMes that have been set up for people to help and support them. But Mom saw a story this week that she shared with us about a 14-year-old eighth grader named Avery Colvert, who lives in Pasadena, and her house did not burn down, but her school did. And the houses of several of her friends and classmates were completely incinerated. And so she was watching all of this happen and watching all of these efforts being put on to help people and support people who had been devastated by these wildfires. And I mean, like I said, she's a 14-year-old girl. Their needs and their brains are just different. And so she started a whole effort to put together kind of a pop-up shop, if you will, of donations and things, brand new things for girls. And so she started an Instagram account called Altadena Girls. And as of the recording of this, is almost at 53,000 followers. And she has reached out to all of these different people, and brands have reached out to her and all of this so that she can put together not only like just necessities. Hey, we need food and we need water and we need sheets now, but we also need hair straighteners, because when you're a 14-year-old girl, your hair is a humongous part of your identity. And tampons and deodorant and all of these things that again, as a teenage girl, feel embarrassing to ask for and feel silly for wanting. And so putting together makeup packages and care packages that have hair stuff and makeup and sanitary items, so you don't have to beg for it. You don't have to ask. You don't have to feel weird about it. And so they were so impacted by the Eaton fire. And so they have had this fantastic show of volunteers and of donations that they've literally had to turn people away. Please, please, please don't donate. Just hold on to it right now. And so right now they are working on putting together a new location for them to set up there in Pasadena so that all of these girls can get their needs met and can do it with confidence and not just through pity and sympathy, but they can feel like humans and feel proud of what it is that they're walking away with. And she's made such an impact. There have been other ones that have been spin-offs of this for teenage boys and stuff like that. But she has made such an impact that she's had some huge major donors who have stepped up. Ariana Grande is up there, who's, hey, let me send makeup. She's got a makeup line. I didn't even know that, but she's sent all of this makeup so that these girls can feel important and special and like themselves. That's her big thing. I wanted them to feel like themselves. All of this is going on. Again, everybody's fighting these really huge battles in their lives. Some different, some big, some small, but they're fighting them. And having an opportunity to feel like yourself, what a gift. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have been big donors of this. Like I said, they're working on a new location and making this grow into a big charity that is ready to go at the drop of a hat when it is needed so that they can all be okay. And I just love it.
14 years old.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So go Avery.
Yep. So go follow at Altadena Girls on social media and see what it is, how you can help. If you happen to be in the area, know that they're certainly looking for volunteers soon, and just be kind to one another. I think it goes a lot further than we give it credit for.
I think so too. I think so too.
Well, if we'll hurry up and end now, then I won't cry through the whole thing.
Yay!
I love you both.
Love you guys.
Bye.